one.
Series YouTube channel where videos. Tonight I'm excited. He's been close to 100 countries, and he's going to tell us the difference between llamas and alpacas. Which, looking at that photo of Machu, I now tell you the difference between llamas and alpacas. So I'm excited to hear from Matt. I mean, to me, 100 countries, Matt, is a world travel. And I've always personally wanted to go to Machu Picchu. Really excited to go to. I'm hoping I can go more time soon when buy a plane ticket to get there. So excited to hear. Take it away, Cindy.
To join us tonight.
Thank you.
Over here and show he the Machu. There's a lovely picture of a parrot and some questions. So start, tell us why you and Peru.
So we had been to the Galapagos. Really enjoyed that. The diverse wildlife, the hiking. Quito was a big city, but the Galapagos was amazing. And then I really like llamas, and I like animals like llamas. My wife likes big. And so explain the basically types of versions are like an alpaca and guanacos, which are like llamas. So this is a guanaco. And they're wild, and these are the untamed versions, and they all kind of
okay.
And tamed, and we're domestically breed them. They're llamas, and they come in lots of different colors, whether or this color, white, black, whatever you name it. Those are the llamas. And then the vicuñas look kind of like this, and these are the wild version of the alpacas. So they're a little bit smaller, as you can see. The alpacas, there's a couple of different species, and they're used for their fiber a lot. So there's the domestic ones, and they come in all colors and things. So if it's like the size of a really large dog, it's an alpaca. If it's almost as big as a horse, it's a llama.
Okay, and so the picture that you sent me, which I now put on the screen, this is an
That's
alpaca?
a llama. That's a llama.
That's a llama.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the alpacas are more like rounded faces and really fuzzballs. And the llamas are kind of big, and they carry stuff, and they're so they're quite a bit bigger.
Okay.
Usually bigger than a person. Yeah, so like this is a llama.
Yeah. I love it that you have so many different options to share with us tonight, Matt. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, you got to have, visual aids. So,
visual aids. They're so cute. Those are fantastic. And so then I know you told me, but when did you go to Peru? How long ago were you there?
So we went there New Year's for 2014, or like Christmas 2013 through New Year's of 2014. It was an easy time to travel. For those of you thinking of going to Peru, I recommend against going that time of year because it's the rainy season, and it was rainy.
Okay. I usually don't have trouble with the rainy locations. Was this because you guys were out hiking and that was the rain made that difficult?
We didn't have a problem with it, but there were, the entire time we did the Inca Trail, there was maybe a good 3 days straight. Like the Forrest Gump thing where it just rained and rained and rained. It stopped when we went to Machu Picchu, and it was actually a little bit hot. That was kind of odd. But you never really got dry. It was interesting though because you didn't have to worry about dehydration as long as you had a filter, and we were with a group and they had water anyway. Made everything nice and clean, but it was nonstop. I think I had about 5 minutes one night of actually getting to see stars, and otherwise it was just nonstop rain.
Just nonstop rain. Okay, and so you did the Inca Trail. So how many days were you on that trail going up to Machu Picchu?
So it was about 3 days of hiking. It's with our trip, there were 2 different trails. One is the Inca Trail that we did, which is the famous one, and then there's also the Lares Trail, which a couple of other people did because the Inca Trail fills up and spots. Trail is probably the Inca Trail. If you is very strenuous, you can take a but stuff way cooler than there's a picture of some 2 pictures of ruins in there and some in the sun, and those were just randomly.
Yes.
It was amazing.
I will go back to the ruins pictures. There's one here, and I think this is the one you're talking about. There's one with the big sky, the big panoramic view. Yeah, so that was just part of what you got to see when you were hiking along the trail, right?
Yeah, and it was nonstop. Wherever you are, there are beautiful views all over and around you. Everything's bigger than you can imagine. It's absolutely amazing at every step of the way.
Okay.
Whether it was raining or dry, it was absolutely amazing.
Right. Now, I've thought about going, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the hike. Of course, I think I could do the hike, but I just wasn't sure if it was worth the hike, and it sounds like it is. It sounds like the hiking part, there was a lot to see, and the view was beautiful, and it was worth being out there for that time.
Yeah, so I like the hike better than actual Machu Picchu because we had places to ourselves. Just understand that it really, really is strenuous. You're at sometimes 14,000 feet. Might want to show that map that I sent.
Oh, yeah, I can show them.
So at some point, you're hiking up to 14,000 feet or so, and everything. So it's intense. It can be cold, and then you're just out of air.
Right, because of the oxygen. Yeah, that's really makes it difficult.
So there was one person on our hike. So we had 2 guides, and maybe. Sorry, I'm hearing. Was there a question?
Yeah. April, can you mute yourself because there's some background noise?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay, that's those.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so there was we had, let's say, 12 people in our group, and there was one person who was really not in shape, and so basically she had one guide and we all shared the other guide, but he kept her with oxygen and stuff to make sure she made it. But some of the days, like the most of us would finish in, let's say, 8 hours, and she would take 20 hours to finish hiking, so it was pretty rough for her.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind if I want to do, like, maybe be prepared to do that and do some test runs to make sure you can actually do the walking. Okay.
Right.
So you went with your wife, right? You and your wife did this. Is that right? That's who you went with?
Yeah. So it was us, and we just went. It was with Active South America, and there was let's say 12 people in our group. And so they kind of, it was a pretty diverse group. It was kind of fun. And they did a easy hike on the first day to see how are you, like, are you going to make it or not, kind of a thing. And actually, we started out in Cusco, which is at 11,000 feet. And that's just the city that we were based out of. And the first day, one of the people who had just flown in that day actually fainted when we were in the market. But it was like really hot and in this little market, and he had just flown in and everything. But and he was a kid and everything, and so it was like, oh God, this isn't going to go well. He was actually fine. He was kicking butt with the rest of us. But yeah, just being in Cusco where it's 11,000 feet, so just walking down to the pizza place and then back up to go to bed was work.
Yeah. Well, they do say that you need to acclimate. Like they ask, to stay in that altitude for a few days or, before you get started on some sort of journey like that. It'll help you. Just takes your body a few hours and days to adjust, right? So I know you went with a group, and I have a picture here of your group. There's a group picture. Is this the group that you went with?
Yeah, and so that was, and we didn't know any of them before. We've sort of kept in touch with some of them after. But it was a really, really neat group. Actually interested in doing things. We had things like biking at 14,000 feet as part of our activities. If you're biking on flat land, it was easy. The second you start going uphill, it's miserable. We played soccer, and I think I sent you the picture of us with after playing soccer, where there's the soccer ball. That was on one of the islands on Lake Titicaca, where we spent the night with his family. And we're playing soccer at, I don't know, 12,000, 13,000 feet. So you try to be goalie as long as you could. And then you a couple of steps and you almost pass out. But it was a lot of fun.
Tell us a little bit about Lake Titicaca, because I know there's an image here of some of the thatched roof, and I'm sure that's where that was. Yeah. So how was that? That's on my bucket list of a place to go. So I'm so pleased to see it and want to hear how that was. Did you stay overnight on the island there?
Yeah. So the lake is bigger than anything. They took us on a boat and we saw the reeds, that little thatched roof place. There's basically these little islands made of the reeds, these like bamboo-like things that grow in the lake. And so they pull those up and make rafts, and then that's kind of their villages. They live on it. We got to go into the house of the mayor or governor or whatever you'd call it of one of these little villages. And it's interesting. This is their civilization. The rafts stop floating after about 5 years because they get waterlogged. So basically, you have people who keep building. They keep rebuilding their town. With that, the bathroom is just like a hole that empties into the lake. They obviously boil their water. They fish. That's their entire food. And it's a real civilization with real people. It was fascinating. There was an island that's, I don't know, probably not as big as Catalina, but a decent-sized island where they had factories, not big factories, but factories for textiles, where people would make textiles and things. And like a town square that it didn't even look that different from standard Western culture. And then we spent a night with the family on this small island, kind of a farming island, where what you do is you buy them like a week's worth of groceries, which is about $4, and they put you up in a spare bedroom. They cook for you. You spend the night and hang out with them, and that was fascinating because you kind of talk to them about what they do. Their second language is Spanish. Their first language is Quechua. So you can tell them they're Quechua Slovakian. They don't get the joke, and it's really funny. And so they're speaking Spanish, which is their second language. I'm speaking Spanish, which is sort of my second language, but it was pretty good at the time. And it was just fascinating to talk with them about what they think. And something that I will never forget, I had extra hats and stuff with me, and we gave it to them. And so I gave the father a New York Mets hat that I had gotten at a conference, and he had not heard of New York. And he asked me, "What's New York like?" Oh, it's a big city. Yeah, it's a big city. Oh, okay. Well, what's it today? Well, like how many feet tall? I don't even know.
Right.
And so that was just really interesting to get to relate to someone and talk with them about what they think is important. They had a daughter who was mentally disabled. We played with her blocks with her and stuff. They farm. They reuse everything. So a broken sandal was used for a part for a gate that they would use to keep the goats in. And it was just fascinating. Just to kind of get to hang out with these people. I mean, can you imagine someone who's never heard of New York?
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend, right?
Yeah, it's New York.
Yeah.
So which one is this?
Oh, it's a quiz. This must be an alpaca, or no, it's a llama, right?
It's a llama, right?
Okay, it's a llama.
Cool.
We got
Okay,
that.
continue.
Okay, I'm going to get an alpaca llama quiz throughout the whole thing. Okay, I'm with you, Matt. So I know you took an organized tour to the Inca Trail and Machu Picchu, but was that the meeting the locals? Was that also part of the organized group that you were with? Did they for you?
Yeah, so they set everything up. There was one group of people that didn't do the second half of it, and it looks like that trip that we did is sort of no longer offered. They've broken it into two parts. They're 10 days each. But yeah, everything was set up, so that was really nice. You kind of go along for the ride. I think you could do it yourself, especially because it's just Spanish. It's not like, a language, well, I speak. So it just wouldn't be that hard. Everybody was very kind. Everyone was, other than in Lima. Lima just reminded me of Los Angeles, which, I mean, just very much like it. That's another fascinating thing, too. So Cusco and Lima are right next to each other on the map, but Cusco is straight up above Lima. So it's 11,000 feet. Lima is sea level or very close to it. You can actually go to the beach at Lima.
Yeah, it's beach
but
town.
So to fly from one to the other is about a half hour, but to take the bus, 3 hours. So one of the people on our trip took the bus, whereas we changed planes in Lima and then flew to Cusco, and it was a half hour of just flying straight up, basically. And then, Peter took the bus, and he said it was 23 hours. So
because you're going, up and up, right? Like winding back and forth, right?
Yeah, nonstop. He said he was able to sleep, but I don't know. The half-hour flight was nice.
Yeah, it was. Difference would have to be pretty good to make it worth the hours, and or the locals that you might meet. I find that when I take public transportation like that, where I'm on a bus or a train in country, there's a lot more locals doing that. So even the 20 somebody on the bus that would have been valuable to his experience also. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the folks and the locals that you met when you were in Peru in country?
So we didn't meet as many as I would have liked because we were mostly in cities or in the wilderness where there was nothing. So it was tourist regime. Interestingly, the people so you have porters carry your stuff along the trail. And the way it works is that there's like a chief porter person who they're all male, chooses his crew. So in our case, he chose his father, and then they have like various crew members. They tear down your stuff, pack it up, and then take it to the next place before you even get there. They slept, all of them slept in like one little tent. Some of them didn't have shoes. They love the opportunity. They make money. It's not money. It doesn't work, the way it does in a city when you're a farmer like they are and so on. So they like the money, but they don't need it to survive. But it was fascinating how hard they worked. So then at the end of the trip, there's like a recommended tip. And I remember we were talking about how much should we give them. And everyone just kind of decided, well, let's just put money in these two jars for different people. And we ended up giving them like 5 times the recommended amount. So for the 3 days, each of them would make on average something like $20. And it's just like, wow, 3 days of your life carrying unbelievably heavy stuff. But they like that. So we got to hang out with them a little bit. I enjoyed that, just to talk to them about, hey, when you're not poor, tell me what's going on, what's life like. And so I was kind of staying up a little bit at night, hanging out with them. In Cusco, we went to a pizza place that this old family had. That was fascinating, just to talk with them about. Cusco's a real city. There's plenty of real city stuff to do there. Almost no crime, certainly no crime against people, but pickpockets are everywhere, of course.
Right.
But just getting to talk to the old people, who they don't see a whole lot of tourists come their way that often. And so just talking to them about, hey, what's going on out here, what's interesting, and that was really interesting to meet people. Also because it was tourists from other parts of Peru that came to Cusco to celebrate. That was kind of fun.
Okay. Okay, so you got to see sort of the locals doing their own local celebrations and so forth, right? Right.
Yeah.
So what is something, if somebody's planning a trip to Peru, I know you told us maybe not go during that time because it was the rainy season, but is there some things that you would tell us not to miss, some things that we haven't talked about, or your favorite things if I were planning Peru, where should I go for sure? Put on my playlist.
So I think Cusco is amazing because it's a city, but you can find hikes or trails or anything you want within a minute of the city. We all had a day off in Cusco after Machu Picchu, and there's, among other things, a chocolate factory. And even though we didn't coordinate, we didn't talk about it amongst each other, everyone signed up for the chocolate class. Literally everyone. So our entire group was in the chocolate class, and what you learn about chocolate from plant to food, there's a lot of processing that has to go on, or and so on. And then also you get to make chocolate bars, you get to put things in them, decorate them, whatever, salted chocolate, that type of thing, whatever you want, and of course eat it. But that was fascinating. We all had a really good time doing that. I wouldn't miss that. I'm not interested. There are markets and things and where you can buy what seems to me like the same tourist stuff that you can buy anywhere. It was not actually imported from China, so that's cool. But otherwise, I wasn't interested in that, but some people were. I didn't care for the food in general. It was bland. It's all just potatoes, and it's bland. People really liked it. Some people ate guinea pigs and alpacas and stuff. I have no interest in doing that. The guinea pigs are really, really cute. And when you walk into the room where their cages were, they all squeak at you. That was kind of cute. I think there's great biking if you're into athletic things. The jungle's fun too, because you get to see in the picture of the bird, there are birds all over the place. Those birds speak Spanish. So as soon as you walk by, they go, hola, hola. And that's kind of fun.
That's awesome.
There's caimans, there's otters, the life. Just be ready for the bugs. The resort we stayed in, there were no bugs because they had something like a perimeter, so literally none. And then you take one step off the reservation, you're going to be bombarded. So I had a head net. I was prepared, but it's real. They're all over the place, and there are these ants that are the size of your hand, and if they bite you, you die. And
Costa Rica.
Of you. Take good care of you. Nothing to be afraid of.
Let's go to talk about. It's pretty far.
So we
did you fly?
So we flew from Cusco to the jungle and then back, and then I think we drove from Cusco to the place on the lake. I don't remember for sure. No, I remember being in a bus or a van or whatever, and we were driving. And so you can see, it's interesting, there's a whole bunch of towns along the way, and a whole bunch of places with locals where tourists never go there. Tourists go past there. And so that I thought would be kind of fun. And then also the people on the islands, some of them were wearing jeans and stuff that wasn't homemade. And it turns out that what they do is maybe once a month or something, they go into town and they buy groceries or they buy clothing. And so it's neat to see shopping malls, but for locals, normal people. So I wish we'd had a little bit more time to go in there and just kind of hang out. Always something about getting lunch at the lunch counter where the locals go, and just sit there. Even if you don't speak the language, just kind of hanging out and eating what they eat and watching their conversations during the day. It's always kind of fun. That's how you learn about a country.
Right. I do think people watching and just kind of letting yourself be is really important when you go to another place. It helps you acclimate and learn some stuff. You don't have to talk to anybody to learn something. You can learn a lot just by watching their behavior and how they interact with each other. So that's great. So we've got a couple more minutes. I'm going to ask our last question we ask every time, which is, was there any lessons or mishaps or something that you would, that you learned on this trip that you can caution us against, or something that was funny that happened?
So I think the altitude are obviously things to be cautioned about. If you're going to go do that hike and you're not comfortable, like going to the bathroom when there are millions of other people relatively around, I would say that's probably, you're either going to get over it or it's not the hike for you. And so there are plenty of mishaps on the trail with that. And I'll just kind of let you imagine that. And I think the other thing was the New Year's. So for whatever reason, and this is interesting too, Peru, there's a mix of Catholicism and sort of the old religion where it's Mother Earth, Pachamama. And they're sort of not consistent, but they're sort of consistent. And so we even saw nativity scenes that had alpacas in them, because that's what they would have for their nativity scenes. And that was pretty to see that. Funny. So yeah, there's a lot there. The colors, everyone wears yellow underwear because it's thought to bring you money in the next year. And so everywhere we're walking, there's constantly sell bottled water, also sell yellow underwear on that day. And you're like, what the hell is this? That was random. And yes, I do have some pictures that I did not forward.
No, that's okay. That's funny though. It's funny, the odd things that I'm sure we as a culture do, things that other people just think are weird and bizarre. And of course, that's just kind of, you walk into a 7-Eleven, yellow underwear because it's New Year's.
Yeah.
And you need those.
And then Inca Cola is their drink. You can actually get it here. And so there's the joke that your tour guide will tell you, which is, who was the last Inca? And the answer is Inca Cola. And it tastes like bubble gum, and I really like it. I haven't been able to find the diet Inca Cola in a while, and the regular, it's just so many calories. But it tastes kind of like bubble gum, and it's bright yellow. And so I miss that. So every once in a while I have one of those. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to switch back so we can see April, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions, because we're and so, April, I know you're getting it, so do we have any questions on the chat window?
Yes, we did have a question. Heather was asking if Matt saw an energy healer and attend a, oh gosh, I'm going to mispronounce this, ayahuasca ceremony in Peru. That's the first question.
So we did. I don't remember about the energy. We did a dance. We did a might be thing that what you're referring to. What you're referring to. Like the fun dance, and they had the ceremony around it. It might be. So it might be. Yeah.
And then great. Heather was also asking it would be to eat as a vegan. If there's vegan up.
Good question.
Great question. It depends on, so my wife and I are vegetarian, and when we travel, she's entirely vegan when we're home, and I'm mostly vegan at home. When we go to another country, it sort of depends on how militant you are. I would think it would be very hard if you're going to be very militant because everything's cooked in a kitchen that whatever it is. But if you want to just only eat potatoes and salads and stuff, no problem. So you can pull it off. I didn't eat when we were there, and I was fine. I remember when I got back. I had an alpaca steak, and it was just kind of like me. Any animal. I certainly would never eat a cute one. But it's just foreign. But yeah. Beans are kind of staples, and they have salads, fresh fruit, so you can do it.
Okay. Good. Thanks, Matt.
I'm just checking. Any other questions over there? Does anyone else have any questions? Please type them.
Yeah.
We actually
And
brought
thanks,
this.
Matt.
We actually brought this one with us.
Its fuzzy little head.
Yeah.
How many alpaca stuffed?
Yeah.
How many toys alpacas do you have, Matt?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is the only one that got to make. This is the only one that got to make the trip.
Okay. So you took one with.
Yeah.
He's adorable.
She had fun. She had fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. It looks great. Okay, so I think we're all done. It's right at 6:30.
Yeah.
We want to be respectful of the time. So thank you, Matt. I really am so glad you were able to join us and share with us your love for llamas and alpacas and Peru, because there's so much more. I'm sure we could talk for another hour or more about the things that you did. But I appreciate that you shared your photos with us and with the rest of the group. And this is we have one more of these. We have another one coming up next Wednesday. We're talking, it's Nancy with Ireland, right? April, is that what we're doing next week?
Yeah. Ireland,
Yes.
Ireland next week.
And then on
Nancy.
Monday night at 6 o'clock, April will be sharing some road trip tips on picking a destination for a road trip. So keep hanging in here with you to join us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.